Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're going to start looking at Theros block, which is exciting. It's a very beloved block. Lots of people like it. We're going to start looking at obviously the first set of Theros block, which is just called Theros, which is always confusing when I do when I start doing these introductions. But yeah, we're going to look at the first deck, which is Favours from Nymphs, which is a white and black deck. Let's look at the deck list here. So we've got 22 creatures, 6 instants, 5 enchantments, 2 sorceries, and 25 land. We've got a mana curve off to the side there. Let's start looking at these cards. So, the theme of the deck is lovely, shiny enchantment creatures, because that is a big thing throughout all of Theros block is enchantment creatures, and just in general, just a big focus on enchantments as a whole. Which is an interesting theme. Not the first time we've seen enchantment creatures. Because there was one back in Future Sight as a kind of a nod towards like, oh, maybe we'll see this in a future set. But really, the first enchantment creatures are all the way back in Urza's block, where we had the opal creatures, the veiled creatures, the hidden creatures, like those enchantments that became creatures. So those are technically the first enchantment creatures, but this is where it's done, like properly. They've got like a lovely new frame to show off, like, yep, these are special. They're enchantment creatures. So yeah, does make them obviously doubly vulnerable to removal, as we'll see. Like anything that says destroy target enchantment is also a kill spell against these creatures. So I personally never found the enchantment, the extra typing to really be beneficial to them. But yeah, that's just my experience. I do think they're very cool though. I do really like the frame they each got. But anyway, let's dive in. Let's start talking about them. So the theme of this, so the foil face rare of this deck, Celestial Archon. So 3 and 2 white for a 4/4, has flying and first strike. And it has Bestow. So Bestow is a new keyword introduced in Theros, and it basically means you can play the creature as an aura on something. So Bestow is on the Archon is 5 and 2 white. You can cast this spell for its Bestow cost. It's an aura with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. So this is really interesting actually. So you can get up to 7 mana, which is a lot. You can whack this on a creature. It gets +4/+4 and flying in first strike. It's literally like stapling the Archon onto it. And if that creature dies, you get your free Archon. So it's like it's not completely wasted. So it's really sort of interesting take. I do find a lot of the bestow costs are very expensive. But I think, I did play Theros a bit. I went to the pre-releases. It was quite a bit slow and durdly. But well, some of it was slow and dirty, and then you had like the decks all themed like around heroism, or heroic triggers, which were like so blindingly fast. So I personally found bestow like a little bit clunky as a mechanic, just because it's so much mana. But the offset here is you can pay 7 mana, get a really huge boost, turn a creature into like a real threat, and then if it dies, you've still got the Archon. So yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. So we have 2 Heliod's Emissary, 3 and a white for a 3/3. Whenever Heliod's Emissary or the enchanted creature attacks, because it has Bestow for 6 and a white, tap target creature an opponent controls enchanted creature gets +3/+3. So it's either a 3/3 with a kind of a master decoy ability, or you can bestow it for 7, which again is such a huge amount of mana, for +3/+3 and the ability. So yeah, I think this is one that's better to kind of cast as on its own. I wouldn't hold out 7 mana for this because I don't think it's a particularly strong effect at 7 mana. I say that's this is where my own kind of biases are going to color my opinion on bestow, because I just do think it's very expensive for not maybe too much outpay. Like if I don't know if there'd been like a hypothetical card that had like reduced bestow costs, I don't know if that would have made it better, but I don't know. And then a single Erebos's Emissary, so 3 and a black for a 3/3. You can discard a creature card. Either Erebos's Emissary gets +2/+2, or the creature that it's bestowed onto gets +2/+2. So yeah, this is okay. It's like it's a bit more interesting than giving it a usual kind of black aligned keyword, like Intimidate or Death Touch or something. Being able to discard creature cards, but again, it's not like really a big theme of the deck is discarding creature cards. Though you do have a lot of creature cards in the deck. But yeah, giving this kind of like shade ability is okay, I guess. A single Baleful Eidolon, so 1 and a black for a 1/1. Bestow it for 4 and a black. Has Death Touch, and if it's bestowed on something, gives it +1/+1 and Death Touch. Yep, this is okay. This one I don't mind actually as much because early game it's fine as a 1/1 Death Touch, good little deterrent. And late game, it's normally such a small creature. Late game, it wouldn't be, I guess, as useful. Whereas at 5 mana, you can whack this on something and give something else Death Touch, and if it dies, you still get this. So it's like useful late game. I quite like it when a small creature like this is useful late game. Like if I drew this, say like turn 5, turn 6. I wouldn't be upset because like going, oh well, like at least I can bestow it, and I'm giving something Death Touch, and then when it dies, I'm still getting the Death Touch, the little Eidolon itself, or Eidolon, whatever how it's pronounced. So yeah, that's kind of cool. The same with Hopeful Eidolon. So 1 white mana for a 1/1 with lifelink. You can bestow it for 3 and a white, and the enchanted creature is +1/+1 and gets lifelink again. So like the Baleful one, potentially useful late game as well, just to give something lifelink. A single Cavern Lampad, so 3 and a black for a 2/2, has Intimidate, and bestow for 5 and a black. Enchanted creature is +2/+2 and has Intimidate. So there's a whole cycle of these Nymphs that are in each colour. They each basically just give +2/+2 and like a keyword ability. They're usually okay. Like their bestow costs are generally a bit more manageable. I think the green one is only like the green and the blue ones I think only bestow for like 4 mana, which is pretty good. And then an Observant Alsaid, so 2 and a white for a 2/2. This is the white nymph, so it has vigilance, and if you bestow it, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. So yeah, generally all okay, I think. These bestow costs of like, I say, if you're whacking on a creature, because the big downside of auras, right, is that it's such like a 2-for-1. You can put like an aura on a creature, and if that creature gets destroyed, you've lost 2 cards. The creature and the aura you put on there. So at least this way, it's a way of circumventing that getting 2-for-1. Like you still get the creature that bestowed still lives in a way. But yeah, I say like I just think the bestow cost is a little bit too high. But then I don't know if Theros was meant to be kind of a slower play experience anyway, a slower like meta environment, but that's a bit outside my experience, honestly. So we only have a single Auramancer, which is really disappointing. Really would have liked at least one more. So 2 and a white for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Yep. So when you have like so many enchantment creatures, this is basically Gravedigger in this deck, which is really interesting. I really like that. But yeah, it would have been nice to have an extra one. A single Blightcaster from M14, so 3 and a black for a 2/3. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you may have target creature get -2/-2 turns. This turns all your enchantment spells into potential kill spells, which is really nice. This is like I actually really like it when core sets do this. They have kind of cards that are not so useful within their set, but are there as a signpost for the next set essentially. I kind of like that. And like because there was actually quite a few Enchantment Matters cards in M14, like this one, Oath of the Ancient Wood, I want to say. There was the red one that like makes a little dragon token when it becomes enchanted. I can't remember, Dragon Keeper, something like that. So that was kind of interesting, and it also just really confirmed like back in the days when like spoilers weren't as prevalent as they are now. They're just like, oh, okay, the next set is definitely going to be about enchantments, because why would there be all these cards that care about enchantments? So yeah, this is a fun little card, basically made for Theros. 2 Lagona Band Elder, 2 and a white for a 3/2. When it ends the battlefield, if you control an enchantment, you gain 3 life. So yeah, this is fine as a common, I think, just 3 mana for a 3/2 that gets you 3 life. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's not a hard requirement to meet in this deck. A single Scholar of Athreos, 2 and a white for a 1/4. You can spend 2 and a black. Each opponent loses 1 life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So yeah, this obviously scales up really nicely in multiplayer games, because you're going to be gaining more life than people are losing. It's like the old wording. I've said this before in a few other previous videos where there's been these effects. I think like the Orzhov ones, where like these days this would be. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, where rather than gaining the sum of it, because I say it scales up too quickly in bigger games. yeah, if you, I don't know, if you're playing a hypothetical like 8-player game, one activation of this is gaining you 8 life is, you know, is too much. It's obviously like a really good solid defensive creature. Yeah, I like this. I like this. A single Sentry of the Underworld, 3, a white and a black for 3/3. It has flying and vigilance, so this is actually okay. 5 mana, I think. Just you know, just have 3/3 and those abilities. You can pay one white, 1 black, and pay 3 life to regenerate it as well. So kind of expensive regeneration. You know, 2 mana and a life investment. But I guess it's all right. I guess it's okay. Just being, I think, a 3/3 flying and vigilance for 5 is kind of okay-ish. As I'm saying it, I'm realizing that's worse than Serra Angel. I guess it has regeneration, I suppose. I've immediately changed my mind on Century of the Underworld. Maybe not so great. So this is the thing that's going to show up as well in all these Theros decks, is like the inclusion of all these like vanilla creatures. There's a lot of vanilla in Theros. So 2 Traveling Philosophers, absolute memeable card, 1 and a white for 2/2, the Philosopher who can fight a bear. And yeah, it's just, this seems like such a waste, right? Traveling, like not having just like a 2/2 for 2. I mean, that is annoying as well, because white can obviously do better than having a 2/2 for 2. It's Silvercoat Lion all over again. But yeah, it's just, you're wasting like a really cool name like Traveling Philosopher and like this really cool art on something that could have like some sort of ability. It could have like Scry or Life Gain or something. It's just it just seems like such a waste to me to, you know, use this card name and this art on just a 2/2 that no one cares about. But it is also funny that a philosopher can can fight a bear. It's just, I don't know. It's a very, very weird card. Then a single Yoked Ox, 1 white mana for just a 0/4. Yeah, it's just white Kraken Hatchling, isn't it? Yeah, fine. I suppose the thing is like, oh look, you've got these vanilla creatures that you can make better with your bestow cards, I guess, is maybe the theme, I suppose, or the intent. I don't know. Seems a bit of a weird thing. Just have good creatures. Single Pillarfield Ox, 3 and a white for a 2/4. Yep, this is going to show up a lot as well in the next few videos. Get used to it. Same with Minotaur Abomination. So 4 and 2 black for a 4/6. Yep. Get used to these vanilla cards. We're gonna, as I say, we are going to see them a lot. Pretty much, I think every one of these Theros decks has some vanilla creatures in them. And then a single Banisher Priest, 1 and 2 white for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you exile a creature an opponent controls until Banisher Priest leaves the battlefield. Yeah, really like this card. It's doing the Oblivion Ring effect, like as it should be intended. I went on to a whole thing about it in a previous video, but yeah, really like Banisher Priest. So the other rare of the deck is Gift of Immortality. So 2 and a white aura goes on a creature. When the enchanted creature dies, you return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and Gift of Immortality also gets returned to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So yeah, I really like the design on this actually. That you know, so the creature can die. You know, if you can get death triggers off it if that's really necessary. And then they get the gift back at the end of the turn. So like your opponent has like this very small window to potentially kill them and end their Gift of Immortality, which I think really plays well to like you know, kind of like how this is represented in like, you know, mythology and stuff. Really, really good. Like I think mechanically, like Theros is like a bit in the middle of the road. You know, it's all right. It's all right. I don't think it's like a very powerful set for the most part. But I think the flavor of some of these cards is absolutely spot on. Yeah, but this is fine. Essentially makes a creature, you know, almost immune to death for like 3 mana is pretty strong. Not sure what the best thing to put it on in the deck would be. Obviously, whatever the biggest threat is. I think even putting this on something like the Baleful Eidolon would be okay. Then you just got like a 1/1 Death Touch that just never dies and is incredibly hard to deal with. Possibly, I don't know. A single Ordeal of Heliod, so 1 and white. Aura goes on a creature. When an enchanted creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then, if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod. When you sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod, you gain 10 life. So all these ordeals, I think, are all right. I always have this like I guess this thing in my brain that like you also lose the +1/+1 counters, which isn't true at all. You always keep the +1/+1 counters. For some reason, in my brain was like, oh well, I sacrifice it now, I lose the counters. No, that's not the case at all. I just can't shake that in my mind. But yeah, these are okay. So it's you know, it's a very roundabout way of getting 3 +1/+1 counters and 10 life. But it's okay. It's okay. I think it's fine. An Ordeal of Erebos, so 1 and a black. Again, same thing, goes on a creature. When it attacks, get a +1/+1 counter. Then if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters, you sacrifice the Ordeal of Erebos. And when you sacrifice Ordeal of Erebos, target player discards 2 cards. I would argue this is probably worse than the Heliod one, because I know the Heliod one is just gaining life, which is super boring. This one is just, it's so much build up just for, I mean, you're getting +1/+1 counters, I suppose, but the payoff is just like a mind rot effect, which is like it takes so long to build up, an opponent can see it coming as well. So they could maybe just kind of play around it a little bit and just make sure they, cast the cards they don't want to discard, or like keep cards in hand that they don't mind discarding to this effect, I suppose. It just, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a weak effect, honestly, to build up to. I don't think there's really any ways in the deck as well to just sacrifice kind of stuff at instant speed. No, I don't think so. But yeah, but that's obviously there's a way. You don't have to wait for the, that sacrifice trigger tied to the +1/+1 counters. If you had a way of sacrificing it, you could do it anyway and still get the benefit. And then we have 2 Farricas Cure, 2 black mana, does 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life. Sure, it's fine. 2 Last Breath, 1 and a white. Exile target creature with power 2 or less. Its controller gains 4 life. This is really, this is really annoying. That's the thing about Theros. Not great removal, honestly. It's all very expensive, as we'll see in the next few decks. But yeah, this I think is like really not great. Like 2 mana. I suppose it is exiling, I suppose, but like, only something with power 2 or less, so I guess like small utility creatures, sure, but also gaining, giving the controller 4 life. It's like, I don't mind giving someone life if it's like really efficient removal. So like Swords to Plowshares is obviously the gold mark there, but yeah, this is just kind of bad, I think. And then 2 Vanquish the Foul, 5 and a white. Sorcery speeds are very expensive, very slow. Destroy target creatures with power 4 or greater, and Scry 1. Oh, and we get to say Scry is back in Theros as well, and this is it's used quite a lot throughout the set, which is nice, just to stick on to spells to give them an extra little bonus. But this is very, very expensive, 6 mana for this effect. Single Ray of Dissolution, 2 and a white. Destroy target enchantment, you gain 3 life. So yeah, in Theros this can also be a creature kill spell, which is really funny. Yeah, it's fine. Single Doomblade, 1 and a black, just to destroy target non-black creature. Yep, fine. This is a lot more straightforward than Ray of Dissolution. And then a single pacifism, got to have Grak. Grak's here for Theros. Yep, we all know what pacifism does by now. Yeah, and then 16 plains and 9 swamps. So, what could have been? Let's talk about, like, I know I've put a weird card here, and I'm going to talk about the weird card first. I want to talk about Tragic Poet. So this is a card all the way back from Urza's, which was also a set that had an artifact, an enchantment theme to it. Tragic Poet, 1 white mana, tap, sacrifice it, return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Like, how it is really, really frustrating to me that like this card in terms of like name and effect was absolutely perfect for Theros, like in terms of like flavor, and I say in terms of flavor, name, effect, everything, and it wasn't in Theros, and I have no idea why, because it's so perfect. Like a Tragic Poet, that is peak like Greco-Roman mythology. And it cares about enchantments, and why was it not in Theros? It really, really, really bothers me. If I had control, I would go. If I could, I would love to go back in time into the whole Theros, design meetings of like, why is Tragic Poet not being included? Do you people remember Tragic Poet? Really frustrating. Really wish it was in Theros as a whole, because it would have been great. I say obviously it doesn't count because it wasn't in the set, so I can't really fully recommend it, but it is, I think it falls under the umbrella what could have been. Tragic Poet could have been in Theros, and I think it would have been an amazing fit. I know it gets reprinted, I think in Dominaria or Dominaria United, like when we go back to Dominaria it gets reprinted, one of those sets, but it should have been in Theros 100%. As for alternate rares, Spear of Heliod or Night Howler, I think either of these would have been okay. I think the Gift of Immortality is okay. I think the Celestial Archon is okay. Spear of Heliod is just an anthem effect, and you get to destroy creatures that dealt damage to you. Yeah, that's okay. And Night Howler is something that cares about creature cards in graveyards. It essentially is a Lurgoyf effect, or a Mortivore even, and that could have been fun as well. But I say I'm not particularly married to either of these. I think any combination of like Spear of Heliod, Night Howler, Celestial Archon, Gift of Immortality, any combination of those four, I'm fine with in this deck. Regarding like the other cards, I think it's okay. Like I think it's using honestly the best white and black enchantment cards in the set at the time. So yeah, I think it's okay. So in summary, yeah, I think this is like a fairly solid start to looking at Theros. Yeah, I think it would have played okay out of the pack. As I say, I've got my own hang-ups about Bestow. I think it's usually like a little overcosted, but I don't have too much experience playing like with or against Bestow, so I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's nice that it, as I say, does alleviate that problem of being 2-for-1 on with auras, that's the usual problem that auras have. But anyway, if you've got any thoughts or comments or stories or opinions about this deck or any of the cards in it, please stick a comment below. Always like reading people's comments. But I'll be out next time to look at another Theros intro pack. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.